if it is possible to cut out a word, always cut it out. This one I kind of agree with. If you don't know a word, you look it up. It's not the poet's job. Break any of these rules sooner than they say. So hi everybody, my name is Nova Pax Thrasher. This is Writing Tips Remix, where we are going to kind of deconstruct writing tips and see what does and doesn't work for us and like personalize them. Because I know for me, like I'm very neurodivergent. I have autism and ADHD. So like trying to make the things work is really difficult sometimes. We're going to talk about Orwell's 6 writing tips and kind of go through and see whether or not we agree with them, maybe by show of hands, and discuss how we may or may not agree. So the first one we've got is never use a metaphor, simile, or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print. What are exceptions to that rule? I can read it again. Never use a metaphor, simile, or other figure of speech which you are used to seeing in print. Like, yeah, not using cliches in print, in writing ever. Okay. The next one we've got from Orwell is never use a long word where a short one will do. I do not like this one personally. Yeah, I have one poem, Self-Abnegation as a Logical Retirement Plan. So I definitely know, like, it's not the most hard and fast rule. What kind of, sorry, go ahead.
My question is he like a big fan of concise writing? Is that what?
Probably. Oh, I would assume so.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So for instance, like, kind of what I'm trying to point at is not all of these writing tips that people come up with are good for poets. Another piece of advice from Orwell is if it is possible to cut out a word, always cut it out. This one I kind of agree with, honestly. Just in terms of with poetry. Oh yeah, I remember what I was going to say. The idea that you have to do like a daily practice with poetry when like sometimes you just don't have the spark. Like I understand the idea of it. I'm not a line bank person, to be honest. Like I don't feel like that's genuine, but I don't mean that in a judgmental way. It's just like my personal opinion there. So yeah, I think it's okay to wait for a spark, I think is what I'm getting at. And that's one that doesn't always apply to poetry, or the daily practice thing doesn't always apply to poetry is what I'm getting at.
I think sometimes too people that I know who are good poets, they do a lot of ruminating, so it's like they're writing in their head, and then it's not like they're sitting down every day and trying to write something every day, but they're doing it. They're just doing it in a different way.
Yeah. Yeah, and what I also noticed is that when I participated in Geoff's 30-30 program, okay, granted I don't have the discipline to actually write work on the same poem for 30 days straight. I don't. So I did like 6, right? And I'm rotating them. But it actually was a great experience, especially if you're looking into revising. Because all of a sudden, this is like a normal daily practice, and I can do all these, I'm like rotating all of these, and I did more writing that month than I ever did. I couldn't even believe it. And I couldn't even believe there were these 6 poems that were like percolating and circulating around. So, yeah, I think it's great. I wish, like, this month I haven't been, since that month apparently I lost my discipline. But yeah, when I actually write every day, it leads to really good things, just for like 15 minutes.
Yeah.
But my usual default pattern is to wait for the spark. So.
What's a line bank?
When you just kind of like come up with phrases, like just phrases that are unrelated to each other for the most part. And just have a line bank, like a file or something of like, these are good lines. And I don't disagree with the idea of a line bank, but the idea that you need to like sit there for 5 to 10 minutes every day and add to your line bank, that's not my jam personally.
Right.
Yeah.
Just like some people have a list bank.
Yeah.
Where they just list out unique things that they can think of. I don't do that either, but I'm starting to think maybe I shouldn't. You know, just that way I can just have a bank to like, you know, just run and just go with it.
And the point of this workshop is that writing tips don't work for everyone. Like, specific writing tips are not for every single person. There is no universal writing tip, I don't think, personally. Back to Orwell, he said, we did talk about if it is possible to cut out a word, always cut it out. I think repetition can be fun sometimes, like extra repetition.
If it's, you don't want to cut it out because you meant to say it 3 times, so then it's not possible to cut it out. So it's a little bit,
Yeah.
what is it, tricky.
Yeah, and sometimes you do excessive cutting. Remember, I was trying to cut back on my hands and knees, and you're like, oh my gosh, why are you doing that?
Yeah.
It's because I was trying to cut back, right?
Uh-huh.
But sometimes you
So-
cut too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's what are you trying to do and what's useful toward that end.
Yeah, I was infected with very Poundian, so to speak, writing rhetoric of like that sparsity. And now, like, when I read other people's poetry, I'm like, that "the" doesn't go there.
Right.
Just makes me judgmental. Geoff is going to agree with this one, I know. Never use the passive voice where you can use the active. Do we agree or disagree?
I agree with that.
Yeah, I agree.
I like active.
Yeah. I feel like my general explanation of poetry, so to speak, is make a pattern to break a pattern. So I feel like the exception to that rule would be if you're using active voice throughout the poem and then you break the pattern and use passive voice to make a point. So that's the one way I would say it's possible to kind of deviate. I definitely disagree with this next one. Never use a foreign phrase, a scientific word, or jargon word if you can think of an everyday English equivalent. I have a poem about platypi that uses the full Latin name for it, so.
Yeah.
I mean, I think excuse me, I think you're writing to your audience.
Yeah, I think that point kind of like constrains the imagination.
Yeah. For sure.
Well, and it's also thinking that the audience can't figure it out. Like,
Yeah, it's like making your audience out to be kind of, unintelligent.
right.
Right.
Yeah, and I also think it limits, like, people who know multiple languages and come from different cultures. Like, maybe you're drawing upon your, like, where you're from, your first language. Like, why should English speakers or speakers in any language get to say, like, you can't use another language because it's too hard for me?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Dictionaries exist. That's one thing that I learned in, like, my college workshops is, like, if you don't know a word, you look it up. It's not the poet's job.
So when, like, I'm just wondering, like, what time frame was George Orwell writing from? Because I mean, right now we all have the internet, right? So it's very easy for us to look things up. But I'm just kind of wondering, like.
Oh, that's a good point, yeah. I don't know off the top of my head. Does anyone know?
I can look.
We can look it up.
We don't have
Yeah, we can look it up. That makes sense. I hesitate to use, like, the term accessibility when it comes to poetry because it's like, I know I've made the mistake of thinking that a word was obscure and it wasn't. And it was just my lack of culture that I thought that the word was obscure or the concept was obscure, and I made an ass of myself, and I feel bad about it all the time. Just to be honest, like, accessibility does not preclude the writer from expressing themselves, I feel like. And then my favorite, which is kind of what this is, the core of this, break any of these rules sooner than they say anything outright barbarous. So what he's trying to say is, like, don't be stupid. Like, don't take this advice and make it so core to your writing that you can't see beyond it. Like, be creative in your understanding of the writing tips themselves. Okay, so what writing advice does work for you?
Do it. I'm sorry, but that's literally what it boils down to. Is just like, I do feel better when I produce something, even if I know it's just a draft.
Yeah.
But the time. I mean, it's like other like things, the way I procrastinate about things. So even though I cognitively believe that I'm using writing as a way to like process things, but functionally I put it off, and and then when I write a thing, it's just like kind of just spills out like water. It's just kind of like, you could just do that. But
So I guess, is there any writing tip that works for you?
Yeah.
I find workshops, they're just really crucial for me, because if I didn't have that external deadline or external pressure or peer group reviews, I wouldn't do it. So.
I found that when people say, like, especially when you're writing your first draft or coming up with your ideas, don't be judgmental. Just let it flow. Find that useful. And then also be very patient with the revisions. Sometimes you might have to do it like 20, 30, 40 revisions or whatever before the real true nature of the poem shows up.
Yeah, one of my favorite quotes about that is, I can't remember who the author was, but they said, specifically regarding poetry and the difference between that and prose, one day I started in the morning and I took out the, and in the afternoon I put it back in.
Yeah.
Like, that's how specific and granular we poets get. So, like, what about these, like, let's hop into these guys, because I know this is like we've got some time to like go through these one at a time, basically. If I could get them off the table. It's so sticky. Why are you sticky? There we go. Okay. Let's start with this one. You can't write if you don't read. How do we feel about that?
You could write, but I think what you would write would be more limited if you don't read poetry and other types of writing.
Yeah, I had a professor friend of mine the other day literally say that reading is like the best teacher or something like that. Because I think I can understand where it comes from, and I also am like, reading exposes you to all these different disciplines.
Yeah.
Yeah, it broadens your experience because there's no way a person can experience so many things in life, so you have to learn from others. And that's one of the ways to learn it, whether it's reading or whether it's surfing the internet, right?
Oh, yeah.
so I'm outing myself because that's mine.
Okay.
But comprehending the why, but it's the consistency and like making myself do it. But like you just mentioned, reading the internet, so there's other limitations that I have in my mind. Like a lot of people say that audiobooks are the same as reading, and my brain is just kind of like, I mean, so I think that part of it is I'm just limiting myself to what I thought reading meant when I was in first grade.
Yeah, because like button poetry videos, those are reading. Like being able,
Say that again?
button poetry and other like poetry YouTubes, like those, that's still reading. And to some degree, it's for poetry, it's better, quote unquote, because you're understanding the rhythm in a different way. So yeah, that was, when I was drafting for this workshop, that was one that I thought about a lot. And you guys came up with the answer, which is just figure out how reading works for you. Ebooks are awesome.
I find too that reading, what I find myself impressed with are writers of honesty. And that is so risky. And yet I get inspiration from I don't know, inspiration is the right word. But anyway, I find myself admiring those writers, and that's like a lesson to me.
The next one is just keep writing. I tend to avoid and procrastinate. So how can we kind of either debunk that or deal with it or so on and so forth?
I think it has to deal with your goals. Like Susan was saying, like if I have a deadline or something like that, then yeah, I'm going to buckle down and do it. If my goal is to be honest about my writing, then I can't force that. I mean, I don't think that I'm actually answering your question.
I'll out myself. This one's mine. I'm not a person that can sit and percolate and then come out with something full blown. And I do find the workshops helpful to create that deadline. But I'm not able to just say, I'm going to put aside 20 minutes every morning. That's not me. I mean, I wish it were me.
How do you feel about prompts?
Prompts?
Yeah.
And, I don't have a line bank that you're talking about, but I do have an idea list.
Okay.
And I would rather kind of go back to what am I trying to write about,
So my first instinct is when you feel like you can't write down ideas.
Okay.
Like instead of trying to force yourself to work on the ideas, just come up with more ideas.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And also going back to goals though,
Yeah.
instead of having the goal of I'm gonna write 20 minutes every day, maybe I'm gonna have so many ideas this week, or I'm gonna write a poem by a certain date. And
You know what I found was a game changer? When I actually decided I was going to work on this book about mom's life and our family life.
whoa.
Yeah.
Then,
Yes.
then all of a sudden I had a goal,
Yeah.
and I also had like themes that I was working with. And so that was a game changer, because before I would just kind of just write on topics randomly, right? Whatever
Yeah.
came up. And so there, to me, that was not structure. So that was a big game changer.
It's kind of like creating an outline for a paper.
And a purpose.
Exactly. Yeah. And I always wondered why different poets would say, oh yeah, I'm working on this collection, and all that. And I was just like, oh, I'll just see whatever comes up, right? But whatever came up was not organized. But once I have that kind of thought in my mind, then it's like, it totally changed the whole thing.
Hey, I love this next one because it's a thing that we already talked about, but now we're gonna like have to try and figure out how to deal with it. Write every day. How do I not get entrenched? Do we have any ideas?
Do we start with who's writing every day?
Right.
I
thought this was a safe space.
Okay. Well, what worked the best for me was that 30-day. Every day, just putting aside like 15 minutes, it worked great for me. And then I knew I was revising, so I had something that I knew that I could actually do. So having a kind of a structure, a purpose, made a big. Now, when I've also done it in the past years ago, where every day had to be a new poem for 30 days, that's a lot of pressure. I couldn't really write anything good, so it ended up that I had this idea in my mind of this poem that I really liked. So I kept that until the 30th day, and then I wrote that, right? Then all the ones that were ahead of that, they were just like, whatever. So.
I guess, go
What does
ahead.
entrenched mean in what that means?
I am not the author of this this note card.
Stop.
I'll out myself.
Thank you.
Everyone's outing themselves. It's fine.
Yeah, for me, I'd say that entrenched, kind of means. Yeah, I'm actually kind of learning a little bit about this in a course on like writing theory pedagogy. But long story short, entrenched kind of means stuck, unable to kind of like diversify
Okay.
in a sense. Like yes, I know I want to write poetry, and it's kind of like okay, I know to be consistent about it, and then
Like in a rut?
yeah.
Kind of.
Mm.
Like not a space
Just
of
becomes-
not being as productive or creative as you want to be.
It's like sometimes it's like yes, I percolate, but like the ideas really don't come. If that makes sense.
Yeah,
Oh, sure.
kind of like writer's block a little bit.
Yeah.
But kind of to Deborah, right?
Mm-hmm.
Deborah's point, maybe just like try it out a little bit. Like try to write every day for like 3 days. And if you do 3 days and take a day break, or try, like I do this brain exercise thing, and it'll like recognize you after having a streak of so long, and it's not that big box of chocolate that I want, but I still get a little dopamine from it. So, there may be ways that you can kind of reward yourself to build the habit.
I'd also say, because one of my visual descriptions of writing poetry is sculpting, where it's like you put on, you take away, you put on, you take away. So I wonder if the writing every day kind of thing is edit every day, edit stuff you already have, and maybe that will spark something. Because we all have stuff we haven't edited. We know it. Stuff that we need to edit and need to work on, and sometimes it might end up being that you're expanding that poem instead of writing a whole new one. One of my favorite of my poems is spliced together from multiple poems over multiple years. And it sounds like it to some degree, like I had it sectioned out, but the theme is the same. It was all the versions of the same poem I tried.
Yeah.
Okay, this is an interesting one. You can only create in a flow state. Is this true? How do we feel about it?
I don't think so. I think the flow state is great when you get ideas and it's just kind of flowing. But then I think you also have another state where you're actually more static and you're more analytical when you start looking at it and revising. So I think there's a couple different states.
Yeah, I can think of one of mine where I used the backslashes a lot. And at one point it was just nitty gritty of how do these phrases go together and how many backslashes do I put where to make it make sense to me at the very least. Okay. Next we've got writing in form. How do we feel about writing in form? Like sonnets or guzzles or...
Yeah.
I'll be honest, I always struggle with writing form. I hardly ever write in form. Just because my thoughts don't come to me that way.
Jeff can tell you I accidentally write in form. I accidentally wrote a contrapuntal. I was like, what now? And one of the poems in my collection, I started reading and I was like, this is a sonnet. How did I write a sonnet?
It's amazing.
Iambic pentameter and everything.
Wow.
I'm like, what?
Oh man. Yeah, I'll out myself. I wrote that. Yeah, I struggle. I don't really write in form. I naturally write in free verse. So when I tried to write a sonnet, a Shakespearean one, it was like all sorts of struggle.
I mean,
Yeah.
is there a version where you just give up on form because it doesn't work for you? Like, would you feel comfortable with just maybe exercising once a week or something? Like, today is form day, Friday form day. And like, make that a little exercise as opposed to, and no, it's not going to be easy still, but like maybe less pressure that way.
Well, I just told Jeff I'm going to work on sonnets. So I have this sonnet-like poem that's not in the right, doesn't have iambic pentameter, it doesn't have the rhyme and all of that, but it kind of has something. So I'm going to work on that. So he's going to help me with that. So.
But I mean, free verse is a form.
Yeah. I mean, the form I use is free verse. But yeah, I do, then jam in, and then I'll do like 2 lines, 2 lines, 3 lines, 3 lines, or 4 and 4, or I'll do prose poetry. I mean, I'll do all forms of free verse, but the actual sitting down of doing like a really tough form, other than maybe a haiku or a tanka, which are easy, it's a struggle for me.
Yeah.
Because I don't really think that way. I really think in like more free verse and yeah.
There's an episode of The Great North, if anyone's seen it. I love that show. Where one of the characters runs into a poet in the woods, and she talks about how she can't rhyme. Like the father of the main family, he says something. He assumes that all poetry rhymes, and then she's like, "Oh, that's so great for you. I can't rhyme at all." And I loved the assumption from the main character where it's like, all poetry rhymes, of course. That just came to mind.
I think a lot of people have that assumption. However, I think to do like that end rhyme, you don't want it to be so forced.
Yeah.
Like if I do it, if I'm trying to do this, it sounds very forced. Like I'm just shoving a word in there to rhyme. And that's not what I heard that if you're really skilled at it, it doesn't sound forced. And also if you're really good at, you know, doing the iambic piece, it also does not sound forced. So you need to do it in a way that's natural.
I completely agree, because I was on tour with a band one time and we were walking, none of this matters. One of the guys was talking about how he had come up with a really great rhythm. And I listened to him and I was just like, that's iambic pentameter, bruh. Like, unfortunately, that's nothing new. But to your point of some people can just do it naturally, or how you were talking about coming up with poems that accidentally fit a form. I love it.
I only have a couple of, like, it's not.
It's not your secret talent.
Yeah, no, it's just like.
Yeah.
But that's because I don't read. That's how I'm doing these things accidentally, because I don't.
So let us, as we're like winding down a little bit, let's come up with really bad writing advice, like absolutely terrible. So like, I'm thinking about only reading in your genre, like never reading prose ever, or never reading fiction ever. Like, what is like the antithesis to such a degree that it's just bad writing advice?
Never get together with other writers. Do it all on yourself.
Yeah, that's a good one. Because there are many famous writers who do that. I've got to live by myself in the woods and, you know, just write and not talk to people or see anybody.
Yeah, I feel like in kind of in light of that, never let anyone else look at your writing. Like, never let anyone else like review it.
Right.
Because certainly there's part of writing that I think should be up to you, but then again, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't revise.
Go with the first edit.
Yeah.
First draft.
It has to be fresh. It has to be raw.
Untouched.
Yeah, exactly.
Like a diamond.
Tainted.
Pristine, like a fresh snowfall.
Exactly.
I'm glad you guys got something out of it. And thank you for being here so early on a Saturday. I really appreciate it. Genuinely, this is like my first like writing type workshop. So I genuinely appreciate everyone being here and participating.
Thank you.
Thank you.